Welcome back to the Footnotes podcast, the short form show with the name to grow our mentality in running. Whether you're a returning listener or just tuning in for the first time, be sure to follow and leave a review. It's a great way that we can get these messages out to new ears. In today's episode, I'm joined by a great friend of mine, a very accomplished and talented individual in mid-distance. He's someone whose work ethic I've always admired, and through his running career, inspires me to continue pursuing my goals. I'm happy to share this conversation with the incredible athlete, Josh Jones. Josh, welcome to the Footnotes podcast. Knowing you over the years, you have such a great story, and I'm excited to have you here, man.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
So let's dive right into it. Middle distance running is known for its unique blend of speed and endurance. So how do you approach the mental challenges that are so specific to middle distance, and how does that mental strategy differ from running other distances?
I think for me personally, the biggest difference is just how aggressive you have to go just from the start. In cross country or other, distance races and stuff, you kind of have to be calm and collected. Whereas in a middle distance race, you just have to go out there with unwavering confidence that you just can't be hurt, And I feel like once it does start hurting and the race kind of does get tough, it's very similar between cross country where you just have to fight back mentally. But I think the biggest difference between middle distance and real long distance races, at least in my personal experience, is just the start and how you just go into the race.
If you had any tips to give the audience on starting the race, how to have that aggression, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I feel like I went over it in a way. Just go out there, have that unwavering confidence that absolutely nothing can hurt you. Obviously, you got to know what your goal is for that day and what you're capable of doing. But at the end of the day, you're there to compete. You're there to race. Just go out there and try to win or do whatever you can in the heat that's realistic,
Absolutely, man. And you were talking about having goals, and setting those goals, I know, is something that's integral to our growth as athletes. So how do you approach that goal setting mentality in your running career, and how does achieving those goals contribute to your mental well-being?
I feel like my goals have changed and how I set goals over time has changed. For me personally, I think the best way that's worked out for me is just having a tiered goal system of obviously you want to PR that day. You want to run a national qualifying time, whatever it is. That might be your top goal. But in the case you're halfway through the race and for whatever reason that's not happening, being able to go maybe a step down on the ladder and just say, my B goal for the day is maybe just, competing in the race. Maybe my C goal is competing in the race, and then my B goal is a different time, just having different layers of goals to set for yourself is really important, because at the end of the day, it has enabled me to get something out of the day no matter what a lot of the times. And in terms of mentally, even if I hit my third goal for the day and it's not my biggest goal, you can walk away from a mental health aspect, not completely in shambles, because at least you did something at some point that aligned with one of your goals.
That's such a strong mentality to have. And I know you also have to have it when you're adapting to new environments. So I know a unique part of your journey is going from Harrison to Midland, only a half an hour away from home. And having moved from Northwood University onto the University of Miami, how does adapting to new surroundings impacted your mindset, and how do you use these changes to your advantage?
Moving from Northwood to Miami is the first time I've actually been away from home. And so getting flipped up, I essentially got flipped out upside down in my head, getting used to all of that was a really big challenge for me. And at the end of the day, it has only been a month. And so I'm still learning, but I think I found a lot of advantages that I can get from it. At the end of the day, though, running is running. It doesn't matter if it's in Miami or Midland or Harrison, wherever it is. I think we try to overcomplicate running a lot of the times, but when I get really stressed out about that type of thing, I just try to step back and focus on getting a little bit better every day. And if I get a little bit better every day with whatever it is, whether it be core or the run itself, or like I said, whatever, I'm putting the work in and I'm going to get better no matter where I am.
I know that's something you and I have in common. We like to say, take it day by day. How can we get better each and every day? And talking with you in the past, we've just seen how these Division 1 track and field meets require, a lot more travel for competition. And with our backgrounds, we also both realized that those away meets involve more than just physical preparation. You said running is just running, and that's a great way to handle that mentally. I think when you're in that space, you just have to remind yourself that this is something you've done time and time again, regardless of the conditions or the environment that you're in. So for these races, when we're traveling, I know you touched on it and you said, when I moved there to a different climate, there's ways to adjust. But for those races specifically, when you're flying out to Boston or to Kansas from Florida, how do you mentally prepare for those races, especially when they're a little bit in unfamiliar locations?
Yeah, definitely. Like, at the end of the day, track is track, running is running. But I would be lying if I said that just that in and of itself is the end all be all to it, because it really isn't. Going to these unfamiliar locations, having to do, pre meet mileage in some unfamiliar territory, just things like that, like, can definitely throw you off. But I definitely have a routine when it comes to that. Just making sure the day before the meet, I'm actually running on the track itself, getting strides in at race pace, just to feel out the track and feel out the environment. On top of that, I've learned to almost make it an advantage when you travel so far, because it kind of makes the stakes higher in a way. You might leave, like, just this week, we're leaving actually tomorrow to go to Kansas meet, and we'll probably get back like Sunday or Saturday night. And just like taking that much time of your week just to go out and run a pretty mediocre race isn't really what I want to do. And it makes the trip back, not as fun. So trying to harness, increasing the stakes, making it a little bit bigger of a deal to make these trips and travel so far, like, I think can actually elevate your performance in some ways rather than running on the same track. It kind of just feels like not as big of a deal sometimes, maybe.
I truly agree with that. I think there's such a focus that you have to maintain and a composure that you have to maintain during these intense competitions. But if we can dial it back and simplify it like you have, I think that makes those challenges a little bit easier and is a great way to ease our mind before that competition. I also know that you have such a strong passion for the 800 meters. Chasing sub 150 had been a huge goal for you over the years, and I was so happy to see you crush that time last year in Azusa. And I know it took so many steps to get there. So could you tell us more about some of the mental milestones or breakthrough moments that you had and how they've shaped your current mental approach to both training and racing?
Yeah. Um, I think for me personally, I got really wrapped up in the idea of breaking 150, and it had become a really big goal to me that almost in a way was all encompassing. Like, once I did that, like, I would be a better runner or a better person from it in a way. But at the end of the day, like, that wasn't true. And so I think the biggest thing that I realized after running between 150 and 152, it was like 17 times in a row, actually. But the one race where I actually went and just focused on competing was the race that I finally broke 150, and broke 150 by a lot, 148.4. Going out there and just focusing on competing, and the time honestly will come like with that.
And it's so great to see that consistency. I know it might not have been the result that you wanted, but over time, I think that 150 to 152 for the 800 is nothing to sneeze at. And at the end of the day, at least you know what you could put down as an athlete, even though I'm sure breaking that barrier felt amazing. So, with that, I know that there are some setbacks that we can have as athletes. They're inevitable in sports. It's the hard truth, but I know it's one that we can always learn from. And part of that learning sparks from passion and being deeply involved in the sport. So, how do you balance the love for running with the mental and physical demands, but also ensure that your passion remains that driving force rather than a source of stress?
I think I've definitely found myself getting really wrapped up and trying to do everything perfect. I've played both sides of that card. And then there's been other times where I try to take a step back, and I almost feel a sense of guilt about taking that step back and trying to just enjoy things. But I think the biggest thing to realize is that you can try to do things a little bit better than you have before, even if they're not perfect. Because being like the perfect athlete is almost impossible. There's so many parts to it that it's like impossible to do everything all at once because there's just so much information out there. There's conflicting information. Just trying to focus on, the process of getting better and doing things a little bit better. Like if you're, always eating junk food or whatever, like maybe you don't even have to stop eating junk food. Maybe you just eat a little bit less junk food. Just focusing on doing the little things that you can control, I think has done a lot for me, and it has made me able to step away from the sport when I need to and not really focus on it and focus on academics or friends and my social life, but also at the same time care about the sport in parts where it matters.
And that's such an important mantra to have in rotation. Control what you can control. I know that's something that you and I as athletes have put in the back of our minds over the years. And I feel like we just always go straight back to that. Some things are just out of our control and we strive to be perfect. But we know that perfection is not something that exists, especially in this sport. We just have to do our best to perform and to practice whatever way we can get better for that day. And I think that's such more of a healthier mentality than striving for perfectionism.
Yeah, I definitely have, tried to be perfect, and it honestly just is not sustainable at all. Like, you can't do that and have other responsibilities and maintain all of that just all at once. It's too much to keep care of. Instead, just, focus on doing what you can do every day. And I think things kind of work themselves out in a way.
So, with that being said, what's one piece of advice that you would offer to help build a healthier mentality for the sport?
I think if I could give one piece of advice to people, and I kind of maybe already touched on it, is just focus on the things you can control in the process of getting better and, take time for yourself outside of running and work on, things you like. Because if you're a more, happy and well rounded like human being, then, running works itself out as well. Like you're not just a runner, you are a person, you're a person first, you're a runner second at the end of the day, or maybe you're, depending on what your priorities are, you need to focus on, making yourself happy, and then running will work out as a result.
Absolutely. I think it's so important that we put ourselves first, we put our happiness first, and we don't sacrifice any of that in the way of the goal. I know it gets so easy to be caught up into the work that we do, but really having a positive mentality and really having a great amount of self-care will take you a longer way.
Yeah, and when you have fun with the sport, you have fun in life. Like it honestly, I believe, is more conducive to running well rather than like having other things going on and just trying to focus on running. Like being a runner is a whole lifestyle rather than just at practice.
Absolutely, man. Josh, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences on what it means to build mental strength. I know it's something we can all grow in together and share in together as well. And I'm sure that our listeners today will be walking away having learned valuable information that will help them along their own running journey.
Yeah, I really hope so. I was very happy to share my insight. I hope the people who listened got at least something from it.
I know for sure that they did. And wishing you the best of luck in your future career, man.
Thank you. I hope everything goes well with you too.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Footnotes podcast. If you found value in today's episode, feel free to share it with someone you know. And don't forget to follow for more mindful content. Until next time, keep growing your mentality with each and every step.